Hey guys, in this video, I've got a new Docker dashboard that I want to share with you that is, while it's still currently in development, there's a lot of really cool stuff that I like about it. Lots of great integrations that have already been built, that more are being built. So in this video, we're going to take a look at a Docker dashboard called Homepage. But first, I've got to pay some bills, so here is a sponsor spot. So when I'm not sitting here making YouTube videos or scrolling the internet, I spend a lot of time reading and researching different topics that interest me at any given time. For a long time, I've been very interested in the idea of artificial intelligence and neural networks. Lucky for me, Brilliant has a computer science foundations course that gets you started with computer science fundamentals and over the course of a few lessons gets you into the introduction to neural networks. Now, we all know that hands-on learning is the best way to learn just about anything. In the intro to neural networks, there's a great simulation about how a neural network might recognize different numbers and letters being drawn on a screen for a better understanding of the input being given to the neural network. Now, if you're watching my channel, there's a really good chance that you've got an interest in ongoing education. Brilliant has thousands of courses with new exclusive content being added every month. They've recently added an everyday math course to give you a refresher on fundamental math like percentages, fractions, and even basic geometry. To get started, visit brilliant.org/dbtech or click the link in the description. And the first 200 of you to do that will get 20% off your annual premium subscription. So I really enjoy showing new containers that are actively being developed, that are still kind of in their infancy, just to get more eyes on them, to show more interest so the developer will hopefully have the encouragement to keep working on them. And I really think that Homepage is one of those things that I think a lot of people are really going to like. If we jump over here to my desktop, I've got a demo set up. And if we just kind of start at the top, here we can see the server stats for the server that this container is being run on. We can see, CPU load, RAM load, storage. We can see all of that. We've got a search option up here. We can see Google is the logo that's in there, but there are other options for that. And then up here at the top right, of course, we've got local weather from a third-party provider. There's a couple of different options for those providers currently. And of course, we will take a look at that here once we get to that point. Below that, we've got some different stuff, some different categories. If we start across the top, we've got media acquisition, MB, because, I'm original. We've got Portainers, because I'm actually listing two of them there. And I've got a speed test where it shows me my current download, upload, and my ping. And of course, under each of those, I've got Sonar and Radar under media acquisition, where we can see how many shows I've got that I've got my wish list, so to speak, how many series I'm monitoring, movie management. Of course, I've got MB, where it's showing how many are being played, whether or not they're transcoding, what the current bit rate is. Of course, I've got two different Portainer setups in here so that I can show that we really can have multiple options in here. We're going to talk about how to configure all of this, as well as some additional stuff that's in the documentation. So down here at the bottom, we've got bookmark categories of social, entertainment, and development, whatever. And then under social, I've got Reddit and Facebook and Twitter. If I open Twitter, that's going to, of course, pop open one of my Twitter accounts here. And of course, these are all things that you can manipulate with YAML files. This doesn't have a back-end dashboard management system. This is all actually done through YAML files. We've actually looked at other homepages like this, other dashboards like this that used YAML files. And like I said in that first video where we talked about stuff like this, I didn't like that at first, but I kind of dig it now. I'm kind of getting into the groove of using YAML files to display this kind of stuff. I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to be like, well, you don't need to run this in a Docker container. You can do this with XML or JSON. Or I know, I get that, and you're right. But some of us really like Docker containers, and that's why we're doing this. That's what we do on this channel, is we do this in Docker whenever we can. Not always, but when we can, we like to run things in Docker. So that's why we're doing this in Docker with YAML files. So across the bottom, if we go even further down, now that I've got that little rant out of my system, we've got some options. Down here in the bottom left, we've got a little palette, where we can choose different colors if we wanted to swap out our colors there. At this time, there's no option to upload background images, but that is a request over on the GitHub page over here on issues or discussions. You can obviously head over here if you got things that you'd like to see in here or issues or whatever. Head over to the GitHub page. There's a lot of good information in here, including how to set up different widgets and how to manage different things. They've done a great job with documenting the entire process with this, and I absolutely love what they've done with that. And if you like this project, come up here to the top and click the little star button right there. Of course, I'm not logged in, but when I am logged in, I will click that button again because I really do dig this one. But with that said, let's actually take a look at their GitHub page. Of course, we've got all of the different stuff, all of the open source files that are here. Below that, of course, we've got the little snapshot there of kind of what we've already seen, just laid out a little bit differently. And of course, you can categorize things and group things however you want. And of course, we'll look at that here in a moment. But below that, we've got some features. This will work on basically any platform, thanks to a couple of the contributors that are there. We've got web bookmarks, service bookmarks, homepage widgets. It's customizable with colors, with a light and a dark mode theme. Really, if you go into light mode, it just turns white. Maybe we've got the option. Oh, it changes. I see. It changes the kind of the tint, but it's still light mode. Of course, we switch this over, then it goes into a darker background there. So that's kind of what's going on there. We've got support and suggestions. Again, they encourage this. They've got a discussions page. They've got an issues page. They've got a lot of good documentation in here. Right here is the Docker Compose. It's really just that simple to get this thing set up. And once you actually deploy this in Portainer, it will generate all of the files that you need to go in and manipulate and edit to do the different functions on the page. And we will cover that here in a moment. Of course, if you want to do, you could just run a Docker command line thing here. I don't like to do that. I like to use Portainer when I can. So that's, of course, how we're going to deploy this here in a moment. Or you could do it with Node. They do have that option as well. And then, of course, more configuration if you decide to go that route. While we're here, just for the giggles of it, let's actually head over to this page where we can take a look at the informational widgets. And like here, we can see resources for CPU, memory, and disk. You can add multiple options for some of these if you wanted to do that, like it's showing here, resources, CPU, memory, and disk. And then there's a second option in here for a different hard drive. If you had multiple hard drives in here that you wanted to monitor, you could mount each of those appropriately, and they should all show up in the little widget up here in the top left there. So let's come back over to here. Again, we've got resources like they've got that they show here. And here we can kind of see how these are broken out into groups as well. You could have it all set up as one thing or multiples. You can really get granular about your configuration with this, and I really do love that. Again, we talked about weather a little bit. Here we've got the weather API option and the open weather map option. You can use either of these. Of course, both of those will require you to set up an account on those services and generate an API key. And of course, those are going to go, right here where it says your API key. And the layouts for these, again, when we get into the actual deployment, we'll take a look at this. But I want to run through some of this just so you've got an idea of what's going on. The search providers, again, you can do, Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, or custom. If you do custom, you'll have to input your own URL for that down below, but you can kind of see what that looks like. Let's see, service. We've got Docker integration. Let's look at that real quick. If you want to monitor multiple servers, you may need to go in here and set up multiple Dockers in the Docker configuration. Again, that's another YAML file that we will take a look at. But that's kind of how you would go through the process of connecting multiple Docker servers to this if you wanted to. And again, here we've got services down below. That's going to be how we're going to handle these little widgets kind of in the middle of the page here for the different Docker containers that we're monitoring. Again, there are a limited number of those at this time, but I know that their team is taking requests for additional Docker containers to tie into so that we can get more information about more different Docker containers. So let's come back over to here, and that's kind of everything on this page. Let's look at the service widgets. So this is the list of everything that's currently compatible with pulling real-time information into your dashboard. We've got MB, Jellyfin, Sonar, Radar, Ombi, NZB, Get, RUTorrent, Pi-hole, Portainer, Traffic, and Speed Test. Now, you'll notice that I do have Sonar, Radar, MB, Portainer, and Speed Test in here. I actually took some time to set all of these up yesterday, actually, just so I could kind of get the groove of how all of these work. They changed from how I originally had them set up when I first found this a couple of weeks ago. Some of the stuff has changed. So as I mentioned, they are currently developing this, so some of the stuff in this video may not always be accurate. You may have to just kind of use this as a starting point and then go back into, you know, their documentation to get more up-to-date information about how to deploy different things. But hopefully this video will give you a better idea of kind of how to get started. So if we come over to the next tab down here, this is services, and of course here we can see how things are kind of broken up: Group A, Group B, whatever. Basically, media acquisition would be Group A, MD would be Group B, Portainers would be Group C. Just to kind of go with their naming convention here. And of course, down below that, we've got different services listed out. And they give, like I said, they're really, really detailed about how to lay things out. I really dig what they've done here. And this is actually kind of what I started with. They gave me something that looked like this. And then after some tweaking and that sort of thing, I was able to put this together. So of course, here we've got, you know, service A and service B. If we scroll down, we've got additional services. And again, these are just examples of how you might configure some of this stuff. In fact, here is Sonar and Radar. This is kind of the most current version of how to deploy these. So I think you kind of get the idea that there's a lot of great documentation over on their GitHub. They're very responsive to questions, comments, issues, that sort of thing. So now let's actually take a look at Portainer first, what the deployment like that looks like, and then we'll SSH into it so that we can kind of look at those different files and see how things are laid out. If you'd like to get early access to my content, you can head over to Patreon, become a channel member here on YouTube, or head over to dbtech.fans, and any of those ways will help support the channel and give you early access to ad-free content. Okay, so here we are on our Portainer dashboard here. Right up at the top, we can see there is homepage. And of course, that's not going to do much for us. So let's actually head over to Stacks and then go into homepage here. We're going to look at the editor right here. And again, this is how simple this is to deploy. We've got a version 3.3 Docker Compose. We've only got one service under here, which is homepage. Below that, of course, we've got the homepage latest tag under here under Ben Phelps. Our container name is homepage, our port's 3000. Of course, you can change that 3000 to something else if you need to. But if you do that, be sure to just change the first half of the 3000. Don't change anything after the colon there. And below that, we've got two volumes, one for the configuration of the actual container and one to connect to the Docker socket so that we can pull some real-time information from our server. And that's really it. Once you've got this configured, and you will want to make sure that this is easily accessible wherever you decide to store your configuration for this, because we are going to have to we're going to have to like SSH into that container or into that location to modify the different YAML files to do what we need to do here. So this is all there is to deploying this. Again, that's on their GitHub. Of course, everything will be linked in the description down below. Once you've got all of this set up, you can scroll down, click on Deploy the Stack, and just give it a couple of minutes to do its thing. And then once it's up and running, you know, once we see that all of our stuff here looks good, and once we can click on this and we get something, which won't be much, it's going to be very, very bare bones when you first get in here. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. But once this is up and running, then we can SSH into our server and take a look at this particular directory where we've stored this container. Hey guys, this part of the video is strictly for my Canadian viewers. So if you're not Canadian, skip this video and I'll wait until you're done. Okay. Hopefully everybody who's not Canadian is now somewhere else in the video. If you are Canadian and you're looking to get into self-hosting, but you don't want to break the bank with new hardware, you should definitely check out the folks over at Refurb Feed. They have a huge selection of always changing inventory of products that have been used and refurbished and are ready to go for your next home lab project. And if you use code DBTech when you check out, you can get 10% off your next laptop purchase. Be sure to check the description of any of the products you consider purchasing, as some of them may not have a hard drive or they may not have a power supply, but all of that will be listed in the product description of each of the products as applicable. So be sure to head over to refurbfeed.com for your next home lab purchase. So what I'm going to do here is actually just pop open our dashboard, our homepage. I guess I should call it by its name. It is homepage. We're going to put homepage on the left. We're going to put our terminal, our command line over here on the right. I'm SSH'd into this server. So what I want to do, if we actually take a look at our volumes here. Sorry, I blanked for just a minute there. Let's actually just go ahead and SSH into or navigate to that folder. So we're going to do cd srv. Oops. Dev disk by label, and then we're going to do storage and then homepage like so, and then we'll do an ls so that we can see the 4 files that should be in here. We've got bookmarks, Docker, services, and widgets. So let's actually start with widgets because that's actually going to be the stuff up here at the top. So we're going to do nano and then widgets. Like so, and here we can see the resources are going to be CPU true, memory true, and disk is just going to be the root of this server. So all of those are turned on. We can see all of those right here. Next, we've got search. Again, we can turn this on or off. If this isn't in here, it won't be there. So if we were to comment this out or remove this, the search bar just wouldn't be there. But here we can see I decided to use Google. Our target is going to be blank. You do have different options for each of those. And then custom data, we can change these if we want to do that. I don't necessarily think you need to if you're going to use one of the defaults, but if you were going to use a custom, you would want to put in the custom data URL and the abbreviation there. And then below that, of course, we've got our weather API where we're going to be able to pull the current local weather for wherever we want to pull our weather from. And here we can see we've got a latitude and longitude. We can choose the units. We want to use imperial or metric. You can put either of those in there. We've got our API key and then our cache. How often do we want to ping this? 1 minute is far, far too often. You should probably set that to like 10. So let's actually just do that real quick, like so. And then, just for the sake of what we're doing here, let's change this to metric. Like so, and we'll press Control S to save. And then if we come back over just that quickly, I didn't even refresh the page. It updated from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So that's how quickly and easily it is, or how quick and easy it is to change things on the fly once you've got this set up. So I just wanted to demonstrate that just real quick. So let's actually change that back to Imperial. Oops, like so. And we'll just click back over there. And just once I clicked over there and it took focus, it just automatically updated. So that's how you can adjust the services across the top for resources, search, and weather. That's all across the top in the widgets.yaml file. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of there. Next thing we want to take a look at is actually let's take a look at Docker, because Docker is going to kind of play into this a little bit. So let's do a nano docker.yml or YAML rather. So this one is so Jarvis, that is a separate server, and that's why I've got a host and a port here with the relevant information, as far as the name, the IP address, and the port that's necessary to connect. That's what is going on with this one. And then this Docker socket, that is for the local machine that we're connected to here. That is this OMV Portainer here on the bottom, and then we've got this Jarvis up here that, of course, we can see right up there. And those are both in there so that it knows how to connect to different things when we tell it to actually in the services YAML file that we're going to look at now. And of course, you can add as many of these as you need to, depending on how many servers you want to connect to. I actually like being able to have multiple Portainers here, so I can just click them. Like for instance, if I just click this, it's going to take me right over there so that I can get logged in. And it's the same thing with this one. It's going to take me right over to get logged in. And it's the same with Sonar and Radar. All of these, MB, all of these, if you click them, they will just take you right over to there. So it's not only is it useful information, but it actually works as a bookmark, which I love about this setup here. You'll also notice that it is very mobile friendly. If I drag this back out, there's four columns across. If I bring this down, now it's 3 and 1. Now it's 2 and 2. It's a very, very mobile friendly. So you should be able to put this on your phone, your tablet, whatever, and view it very easily that way. So let's exit out of this YAML file. Let's actually go over to our services, like so. And here we can see that I've got media acquisition, MB, Portainers and speed test. Here we can see media acquisition, MB, Portainers, and speed test. So again, so if we start at the top, we've got media acquisition. Under here, I've got Sonar and Radar. And this is, if you're familiar with Docker Compose, they're kind of laid out similarly, right? Like you've got your services, and then under your service, or under your services, you've got each individual service, and then you've got, things like, your environment variables, and you've got your different things. So this is laid out very, very similarly, and I absolutely love that there's kind of that ease into it because they are laid out very, very similarly here. But we've got media acquisition, Sonar, and Radar. We've got an icon of Sonar and an icon of Radar, of course, as you would expect there. I'll actually have a link in here to the icons that are available for this, and there's a ton of them in here that you can use. So definitely check that out. Again, everything will be linked in the description down below. Below the icon, we've got the link, the URL for that service. This is what's going to cause us to have the ability to click. That will actually, take us over. This is telling us where to go. That's what a URL is, right? So, and below that, of course, we've got description for series management and movie management. You can, of course, name these whatever you want. You can be very, very unique. However unique you want to be with these, you can do that. And then we've got the option for widgets. Now, if we didn't do the widget, it would just show us Sonar series management, MB media management, Jarvis Docker management. But we've got widgets under each of these. And of course, you'll only be able to use widgets that are available for this homepage container. And again, we've taken a look at that over here. Where did it go? Under here, under services. And of course, no, it's not under services. I lied. It is under service widgets. You would have to make sure that the services that you want to use or have widgets attached to are available on this page. And of course, here you can kind of get an idea of what those look like for each individual one. Like for Sonar, if we take a look at Sonar, we got widget type, Sonar URL, and key. And that's all I've got right here under widget type, URL, and key. Make sure that those are all correct. Of course, this will be the URL for your Sonar instance, as well as the API key for that Sonar instance. So that's kind of how that works. Again, Sonar, Radar, MB, those are all going to be very similar. It's the widget, the type, the URL, and the key that you'll generate for each of those different services. When we get into Portainer, it's similar, but it's a little bit different. And the reason I say that is, again, we've got our Jarvis Portainer and our OMV6 Portainer, and our icon, our href, our description, and our container. So that is one little thing that's a little different, as I had to put in container here on those for some reason. And then below that under widget, we've got type, Portainer, URL, and our key. But there's this env. In my case, it's 2 on both of these somehow. Yours may be different than that, and here's how you tell. When you come over to Portainer and you look in your URL bar, it's going to be, whatever IP address, your port, whether it's 9000 or 9443, and then it'll be, hashtag, exclamation point, and then a number. It'll either be 1 or 2 or something like that. Whatever this number in, or whatever that number is in your URL bar, is what you're going to put in this env under the Portainer widget. That's just how that works. I'm not entirely sure why, but that's how that works for Portainer. So just something to keep in mind there. And of course, if we come back over to here, if we find Portainer, you'll see that right here. And right there, you can actually see it in their explanation as well. Again, they've done a great job explaining how all of this works. And then below that, of course, we've got speed test for our fourth little column over here. And again, it's the name, it's the category, the name, the icon, the URL, the description, and the widget. Just all very, very cut and dry. It's very, very easy to get set up. Now, of course, the thing to keep in mind, there is no back end on this. To administer this from the dashboard itself, all of this has to be done in the YAML files. So that also means that there's no user accounts. So this is something you may not want to put public facing to the internet unless you're doing it with restricted access based on, IP address or through a VPN, or if you're using Cloudflare tunnels, you might log in via the Cloudflare interface. Just, I don't know that I would want to put this public facing without some very strict restrictions for access on it. But that's basically it. That is homepage. Again, this is still being developed. It's still fairly early in its development, and I absolutely love it. I really wanted to share it with you guys so that you guys could check it out. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I'd love to know. I know we've covered a lot of different homepages, a lot of different dashboards, if you want to be more generic there. We've covered a lot of them over the last couple of years, and I love to see what people come up with, how they connect to different things and how they go through their process of getting all of this stuff connected. Absolutely love it. I hope you guys do too. Again, I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me today. But with that said, I'm going to wrap this up and talk to you in the next video.